multiband compression on vocals. I use it on absolutely every mix. I have 3 main plugins that I go to for multiband compression. What multiband compression on a vocal allows me to do is control the low end of the vocal to keep it steady and present at all times throughout the frequency range of that vocal. Multiband can also help with bright peaks and sibilances in the vocals, and in general, it just keeps the vocal tight and punchy and sitting on top of your mix very nice. In this video, I'm going to show you how I use multiband compression on vocals. I'm going to show you what it sounds like before, after, and I'll give you a few options of different plugins that you could try. Let's jump into it. What is up, my friend? Jacob here with another video to help you record better, mix better, and even work better. In today's video, we're going to talk about multiband compression on vocals, why it's awesome, why it's important, and which plugins you should try to use. Now, before we jump into the video, I want to tell you about something very, very special. If you did not download it already, I want you to go pick up my free ebook on being a recording studio ninja. In this ebook, I cover the 5 main principles that I use on a day-to-day basis to keep my clients happy, keep them coming back, and even more importantly, bring new clients through the door. Again, it's absolutely free. I want you to have it. Go to www.mixwithjacob.com/ninja. Pick that up. Let's jump into this video. I have this track here called Day Drunk by Flara K, which is a Montreal artist here. And we're going to listen kind of towards the end of this track. There's a lot of back vocals, and we're going to see what I was doing because I haven't opened this mix in probably a year. Let's go see what I was doing with the multiband compression and which plugin I was using. So let's go pinpoint these backup vocals here that go. Those ones. Forgive my terrible singing. Let's solo them. So there's a lot of information in there, and you could hear in some of the harmonies, there's some low ones, there's some high ones, there's some mid, there's some really high ones. Using multiband compression on this kind of stack of vocals is really going to help keep them kind of together, glued, while not having too much low end popping out, not too much top end, and just keeping it kind of level. Let's take a look at what I was doing on these back vocals. So I have quite a few plugins on this back vocal bus. Let's solo it here. So it looks like I was using the C4 on this mix. I mean, this was probably a year ago now, maybe even longer. But C4 was my go-to. Now I use a plugin called MC404 by McDSP, which is also a very fantastic multiband compressor. C4 is really great. There's also C6 as an option, which has these 2 kind of notch frequency bands at the kind of extremities of the plugin, where you can really go and target certain resonances and just slam them down as hard as you want. We'll kind of go through each of them, and I'll display kind of my thought behind what I'm multiband compressing and kind of how I shape the tone of the vocal with the multiband compressors. Let's check it out right now. Let's open C4. So you can see here, I have a bit more of an aggressive dip in the low mid range because I want to compress that low mid and then bring it back in with like an analog EQ afterwards so that I kind of have this level low end in the vocal, and it helps keep it kind of present on top of the mix, always kind of fat and huge vocal. And then you'll see a little bit higher, I have a little bit more discrete multiband compression on the 2 top ends between 504K and 4K and above. Let's take a look at what it's doing. Let's hear it in context. So you can kind of see it's shaping that vocal, keeping the top end a little bit untouched, but compressing down in the low end to really like kind of squash down those low harmonies, so that it kind of glues everything together. Let's hear it with the plugin and then without in solo. Bypass now. See, it's subtle, but you can hear the work it's doing in that low end especially. Nice. Yeah, big time. It actually even just makes the vocal punchier, which is fantastic. So that's the C4. Let's talk a little bit about the parameters here. To be honest with you, I don't really mess with the attack and release times because the defaults on these, the C4 and the C6, the default release and attack times of the compression is very natural sounding. There's a little bit of a slower attack and a slower release in the low end, a little bit faster in the mid, and even a little faster in the top end. And it kind of makes it so that it doesn't eat up too many of the vowels or syllables or the pronunciations of the words. It's kind of just very smooth and transparent. Now, let's say I were to completely reset this multiband compressor and recreate the preset kind of that I had, just so you could see kind of where I'm going with the frequencies and how much I'm compressing and stuff like that. First thing I like to do is bypass the low end band because I don't really need it. You could use it and really just try and squash down on the plosives, like in the sub frequencies of the vocal, but it's not super necessary, I find. I like my ranges to be between maybe 70 hertz and 500 hertz, and then 5 to 4K, and then 4K and above. Because I find those are the three ranges where things tend to sit and poke out more. What I like to do is take a little bit more of the low end out. Let's try like a -11 range. And then let's try -6 ranges for the both top ends. So you see it's already cranking that top end down a little bit. I'd like to keep that a little bit more untouched. So let me bring this threshold all the way up and let's kind of bring down the thresholds until you see them starting to kind of dance around. Nice, maybe a little more. Yeah, already just compressing only like that 4 or 5 dB in that low end, you hear the vocals start to get more punchy as I'm sliding it down. Let's check the top end. I just want a little bit on the top end. I don't want to do too much because I want to keep that brightness and articulation. That's pretty good. That's already a pretty good setting. Let's hear it in context. Let's hear it without it. Turn it back on. Nice. I'm going a little hard in the low end. I might just be a little more chill. Nice. Let's hear again. Without it. With it. Yeah, you see it just kind of, it tightens the vocal up. It really glues all the backs together because of all the different harmonies. It's kind of just like smushing them together into this nice wall of back vocals. Let's check out now kind of similar processing, but with the C6. And I'll show you those bands on the sides that are really, really cool. So first thing I like to do when I open up the C6 is I like to find those resonant frequencies in the vocal. I'll often just reset it a little bit so everything's flat. There's no boosts in any of the frequencies in the gain sections here. And then I'll kind of do a similar move with the same kind of batch of frequencies as the C4. So, you know, 70 hertz to 500, and then 500 to 4K, and then 4K and above. Those are kind of my sweet spots here. I like to bypass the low end band down here. And let's do a similar kind of move that we had in the C4, like a -10 range, -6 for the two top ends. And let's just kind of get a similar kind of sound as what we had in the C4. Because it's essentially the same thing, it's just you have those two added bands on the sides. And this plugin has a sidechain version. So it's the same exact thing, but it's capable of doing sidechain input, which is actually really cool if you're trying to like duck out like frequencies in a kick drum to make room for the bass or vice versa or whatever. It's kind of a cool little plugin to have in the secret plugin locker. Let's take a look now at these resonant frequencies. So I have kind of a similar setup as I had with the C4 here, with these 3 bands. You know, so it's kind of doing the same work as the C4, so that's great. Now let's go look at those resonant bands that I was talking about earlier. Usually vocals tend to have these resonant peaks around the 250 range, and then oftentimes around the 4 to 5K. This kind of like sibilancy, kind of harsh thing that we don't like. We want to get rid of that like as quick as possible. So I like to crank the Q on these bands on the sides here, get them really narrow. Let's bring them up to like maybe 40. I don't know if that's too narrow. Let's take a look if we bring down the range. Yeah, it's a bit narrow. Let's widen it up a little bit. Let's say 10 is a cool sweet spot. So we got that. Now let's kind of listen through this vocal. So you see how you could solo? Here on the edges, you could solo those bands one at a time and kind of maybe sweep through and see where you hear that frequency pop out. I like to do it without soloing as much as possible because then it kind of trains your ear to hear those things instead of just sweeping around blindly trying to find something. Let's just kind of play the vocal and I'll see kind of... It's probably a little bit in the lower, like 230 or something. So let's solo, let's go find it. Probably around 230. Oops. Yeah, somewhere in here. It's a little louder around the 230. Yeah, it's around here, so let's go and kind of control that a bit. I don't want too much compression. I want maybe like, you know, 5-6 dB, just kind of dynamically controlling that resonant. Some people like to squash it completely out. I like to be a little bit more tame with it. If I still feel it's a problem, I'll go a little harder. Let's hear that higher band now, around 4K maybe. Yeah, yeah, that 5K, 6K is pretty bad. Let's bring that down a little bit, kind of notch it out. This one I think I'm gonna be a little bit heavier with it. Nice. Let's hear it without the solo now. Bypass it now. Yeah, it's a little bit cleaner, but it's subtle. It's not too crazy, which I like. Now, let's take a look at my third plugin of choice for vocal multiband compression. That is the McDSP MC404, which, if my search function would work, that would be pretty cool. MC404. Now here I have this preset loaded up, Jacob Vocals 1. It's like the main vocal preset for this thing. And what this preset has is similar attack and release times all over the thing, different thresholds to kind of control different frequency ranges. This one attacks very specifically the low mid and the mid ranges while keeping the vocal very bright. Now you can see that the range of the crossovers are different in this plugin than the C4 and the C6. This one is attacking really very sub, and then 100 to 1K, 1K to almost 10K, and 10K and above. So let's take a listen to what it sounds like. And I'll usually, through this preset, I'll work here with the input to get kind of a sweet spot of compression. I don't want to do much more than 3-4 dB of compression with this guy because it's a bit heavy. Nice, that sounds good. Let's bypass it. Yeah, you see it's just so much darker, less fun. Let's hear it again. Yeah, it just opens the vocal right up. It really controls. You can see what's happening down here with see, it's really compressing in that middle band, which is between the 100 and 1K. And then it's compressing a little bit in that top mid band, 1K to 10K. And when there's a plosive, like a really heavy plosive with the low end, under 100 hertz, it's gonna compress it here. So really, this one with this kind of preset specifically helps keep the vocal tight but transparently compressed, you know, so it's very subtle but helps control the plosives heavily, helps control that low end and keep the vocals bright and present. Now, if you own MC404 by McDSP and you want to have this preset, you can go down in the description. I'll put a link. You can download this preset absolutely free, have it, use it, have fun. And that's pretty much it for multiband compression on vocals. You see I use the C4, the C6, and the MC404. Right now, as it stands, recently I've been more leaning towards the MC404. I like how transparent it is and how aggressive it is in that low end while keeping the vocal natural. Just kind of brightens things up, lets the vocals sit on top of the mix. But alternate options are the C4 and C6, very powerful multiband compressors. So that's it for this week. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with whoever might find it helpful. And before you go, down in the comments, I want you to let me know, do you use multiband compression on vocals? If yes, which multiband compressor do you like to use? I'm always looking for new tools. I'm sure everybody else would be curious to know. So let us know down below. And again, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. Peace.